Okay, further progress on my machine. I'm working on perfecting this gear to make it mesh better. This one is an improvement over the original purple one that I made, but I didn't take into account scaling the hole that attaches. So I redid it and tweaked a few more things, and I think it's going to work better. So it may give me a little bit of trouble right now, but it'll get me through this. So I've got my 2 large ribber weights, and I've got a hook. I've got my little cast-on basket with the loops on there, and I've got some sock yarn ready to go. Okay, first thing I want to do is put this in from the underneath, because if you try, and it has to go in with the loop on the bottom. If you try putting it from the top, then all the hooks, the needles start grabbing everything. So I'm just going to get one started and make sure they're all on this side. It's kind of hard at this point. And just get it hung on a few needles, even though they're not going to be the right needles, just so I can get some weight in there and get some pressure against the needles. And these loops can be moved if they're not on the right needle. Now this side is a little harder because the needles are already starting to knit. So I should be able to hang some weight on the underneath for now, and I may add weight on the top. All right, so I've got a pound on the bottom. So I'm going to start with the needles that I can see, and I've already got one hanging on that needle. So I'm going to try not to skip any of these loops because I've done that quite often. So I'm going to grab the next loop, skip a needle, and hang, and then do this all the way around. I'm going to have to stop when I get around here because I'm going to run out of needles, and these, as I turn this thing, I'm going to have my yarn threaded because they'll start dropping off, but I'm not going to do that yet. So you can only go so far. I'm getting better as I go, getting a little bit faster each time. Oops, see, I skipped a loop, so I'm going to have to move this one over. Let's see, make sure I've got it every other needle. I could have done a better job tying these loops on, but what I did, instead of just tying it on single, the first time I did that, the loops were not all the same size, and they have to hang the same. So I took a heddle jig that I used to make string heddles for the looms, weaving looms, and I made all of these loops sort of like a string heddle. I made them all the same size, and then I just looped them through the holes, I guess you call it a lark's head knot. But to keep the knots from slipping, I'd put a little dab of super glue on each one so they would stay tied. So I kept trying and tweaking this till I got something that worked. And I've already cast on a few times using this one, and so far it's been a big help. Mainly because I can get a lot of weight in there. If I need more inside, I can put another weight inside like that. So I'm not going to pause the video. I'm just going to keep going all the way through, even though it's repetitive. It's real easy to skip a loop because they go down between the layers. And on this side, I'm not able to see as well without getting into the way of the camera. Trying not to lean over too far. Okay, I'm going to start turning this a little bit and getting some of these needles ready so I don't have to work on this side. Okay, I feel something catching. Sometimes there's too much weight in there. I just got to get it past certain points. I think that I need to adjust these cams a little bit because my needles were hanging up. I could feel them down there. I need to take the whole machine apart and do some sanding on the inside. I've tried to avoid taking it apart too much because I don't want to strip the holes. So I'm going to wait till I know that I've got everything kind of tweaked with all the parts and the gears. And once I got them, once I have them like I want them, then I'll take everything apart and sand it. I did some sanding in the beginning, but you never really know till you use the machine. So this one needs to be moved over. That was one of the ones I hung for support. So I need to turn this a little to get that next needle up. But I still don't want to go too far because I don't want these to start knitting yet until I have some yarn to catch them. If I go too far, then they'll drop off. See, I'm watching that needle right there. So it's probably time for me to go ahead and put some yarn in the feeder. I do want to let this one off though, because I don't want this one to knit. I'm going to put it over here on this side so I can still have some support. So I'll get this out of the way until I'm ready for it to grab that needle. Okay, so I still need to hang some over here. And with this cotton yarn, the reason it's struggling to go forward is because this needle is on its way down. And with the cotton yarn, it doesn't stretch at all. And so sometimes when I get to this point, I'll take the weight off and kind of just hold it in the middle. Can't really see what I'm doing until it gets to where I can get past that point. So now it wants to knit, so I'm going to need some weight. And I'm going to need to get this yarn ready for it to grab. So usually I'll just stick some weight on top of that yarn or a clothespin or something like that. So I'm going to make sure that this one knits. And I can hang those in a minute, so I'm not going to worry about those right now. So I'm just wanting to get past this trouble spot. And also, it's still struggling because these are still trying to go down. So the first round is a little hard. So I'm going to kind of lift up on the weight on the bottom. Just kind of ease the weight until I can get past that point. I need to secure that right there. So. All right, so these are going to start knitting, or they should. I'm going to finish hanging the ones that I can get to on the other side. And there's one hiding down there somewhere. There you are. Okay, gotta go a little farther. And over here I'm watching to make sure these green threads pop down below the latch. So again, I'm gonna lift up on the weight underneath a little to help these go down. And I've got this cam in the highest position so they don't have to go down as far. And this one was one that I used for support, and it's in the wrong place. So I'm going to release that one. Grab the next one in line. And this is just every other needle, because it's going to be sort of a weaving cast on, where every other needle just kind of grabs one of these, grabs the main yarn, or in this case is the waist yarn. So the green yarn is going to be knit. It's going to go ahead and make a knit stitch, but there's just going to be a bar in between, and that's going to form a stitch the next time around. So only every other needle is knitting. It's a lot easier to do on a flatbed knitting machine. Okay, so I'm going to keep my eye on this over here, lift up on the weight underneath, make sure I'm not dropping anything, and continue hanging these loops. Lifting up on that weight again. I think I might have one or two loops missing. No, there they are. Okay, so that's all my loops. I'm going to put this back down in there and keep a clothespin for a second or two. And I'm going to continue kind of easing up on the weight underneath until all of these green yarn pieces have knit. I'm almost to the other side of all the green ones. And even if a stitch drops, you can still correct, since this is just waist knitting, you can still kind of correct the stitches and get everything hung on needles. Just keep knitting until you finally have some good stitches. So I feel something that doesn't want to knit here. I'm going to lift up on the weight a little bit until I get past all the trouble. And that looks like a drop stitch right there. So I'm just going to grab one of those bars and put that over. I can leave both loops on there. I can put one of them to the back, and it should catch next time. Already getting easier. If it catches on me, I just kind of lift up on the weight underneath. I've tried the smaller river weights. They're just not enough weight, so I have better success with this 1 pound weight on the bottom. So it's getting smoother and smoother. If I start getting tuck stitches, then I'll add more weight into the bottom. But so far, everything looks good. So that's my easiest cast on yet. So the only thing I have to do now is finish tweaking my little basket and making it stronger, making the loop on the back stronger. I didn't want to post it too soon, but if I get it the way it needs to be, then I'll go ahead and post the file. This gear is a big improvement on the first one that I printed, so I'm hoping that the next one I print will take care of some of the issues that I'm having with this one. So here's a tuck stitch, and I can go ahead and repair that. So I might go ahead and add more weight now, maybe a smaller weight. That's why I like the little basket, because you can keep weight on it consistent in an even manner all the way around.